How are you doing this morning? I hope that you guys hope that you guys have thought about the authorities and uh, power and influence in educational context. But today we're gonna move on to another topic. It's about evaluations. Not the student evaluations, but how to evaluate teachers and how to evaluate the administrator, right? They have also the leadership at schools, and there is a lot of ways, but still, let's talk about how can we evaluate the evaluations. So there is kind of, we can talk about a little bit basic information about educational evaluations, and then I'm not talking about the student evaluations. So education evaluations is concerned primarily with achievement of specific norms or goals, right? It's clear how can we perform well and how can we have how can we keep the student better? Like this one is a educational kind of evaluation. So really emphasize what specific norms and goals. That is, and then another types of evaluation is like this, and then maybe how can you evaluate the people and goals, and like they think about qualitative evaluation and then also qualitative evaluations. And qualitative evaluation is like really based on the interviews, and then interview, and then question is kind of open-ended, and then you have some questions, and then but you don't. Oh, I'm start here, and then not just okay. There's no, but sometimes it's going on, it's open-ended, and then we can get some information that we don't expect it, right? That's the qualitative, and then open-ended, and what goal-free, and what is it, the dedicated, dedicated to insight description and judgment of education of reality, and there's a lot of different types of evaluation. That one is kind of based on the interviews, right? Based on the interviews. And look at this, and then another evaluation is really pragmatic aspect of the evaluation process, and try to get the information, gather the information, and follow the kind of process, and analyze and judges. And that really, the second one is really based on the interview. That one is maybe we can use a kind of surveys, and then get a kind of data, and then we can analyze, and then we can make decisions, right? And that is another the evaluations, and then whatever we use, how can we evaluate the goals, and by a lot of different ways, and then what is the education evaluation? So education evaluation is like even though they use a different method, then this is what defined as a systematic collection and interpretation of evidence leading to the judgment of value with a view to actions. That is a kind of definition. So according to this definition is what? We need to know the systematic collection, whether it's an interview, and then depends on your studies. If you study social science, like psychology, nowadays a lot of quantitative research based on quantitative research is like survey and use some questionnaires, and then collect the data, and then analyze it systematically, and then make the kind of decision. Then, and systematic collection, and if you go to interview, and then you gotta know what kind of there is a process, and whether you have a qualitative and quantitative, and then we always reliability is really important, and validity is really important, right? And if you do research the same thing, and then you will expect the same kind of result, and then the process is right, right. And so that's why we study like this, and then that's evidence, right? And so the evidence study and conclude that the study, result of the study gives them some idea, insight, and then draw make actions, right? That is basic, but still like psychology and educational area kind of accept evaluation, accept the systematic analysis, right? There is different kind of evaluation mode, and then we're gonna talk about 3 modes, and then what is summative evaluation? Summative evaluation, like evaluations occur at the identify end point of the project, program, and courses. In the beginning, there is kind of you can think about your grade, and then in the beginning there's a lot of this attendance, how many percent for your grade, and then what's a midterm and final, maybe project, papers, and other things that reflect your performance. And then the end of the semester, and then we collect all put together. Oh, you deserve to get A. You are excellent, and then maybe you deserve to get B. You work hard, but not that excellent. But you get a C, and you work decently and enough to pass, like this, right? And that is a summative evaluation, though. So start the project and courses at the end of at the end, and you evaluate. So here is some examples of comprehensive finals and course grade and annual performance and merit review, like this, and all these other summative evaluations examples. So here is, and when you make a summative evaluation is conducted with the intent of making summary of judgment about the overall work of educational behavior, endeavors, activities, and program, right? You can summarize all the educations. Now, so that's the intention, right? And if you want to do, and then usually that's why most of the school adopted their evaluations. What about the formative evaluation? Formative evaluation occurs while product is being designed, process, and ongoing. It's not at the end, in the middle. There's a certain point, right? And there's evaluate, and then first, just think about a whole year, and then we are working at school, and first semester. I mean that every month you evaluate something in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, right? And then first quarter, and then they think that, we are downing. and then how can you erase the bar in second quarter? So you're gonna be able to modify what you are doing, and then try to second quarter and raise the bar, right? And what about third quarter? Oh, you are doing fine, but still not reaching the overall goal. And third, and then a little bit more motivate, modify and motivate, and then challenge your fourth quarter like this. And then there's an intermediate evaluation is there, and then you can keep going and achieve the goals. So here is the data is really desirable when implementing new program or instruction delivery systems. It's really, you don't know do program works in the setting. So you gotta evaluate first, second, third, and you can see the whole year and then how it works. What is the result, right? And then they don't change in the middle. They change in the middle like this, and then they can modify, right? And this is really useful in conjunction with the program and the staff development and organizational change. How can help teachers kind of develop their professionalism, and then maybe provide more classes and kind of let them get some more expert knowledge from the conference, and then I mean that you're gonna go to conference, right? And then school support the conference like that. That's a formative evaluation. So really nurture effective teaching and educational testing, right? And then to achieve the goal. What about the ex post factor evaluations? What kind of evaluation is that one? That one evaluation is studies or event and data in the longitudinal manner, and maybe 5 years, 10 years, and determine the factors that contribute to educational success or failure. Maybe you could study about what is the longitudinal mean that it takes long. It's not 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, and usually they take 5 years, 10 years, and then they still study and then observe and analyze and see. And that's why maybe really under deserved was underdeserved was a class. I don't want to use that word. And think about student who has enough support from parents, and then how they success at school, like from elementary to college and after their life. It's a long process, right? How they process in first grade, and how they in elementary, how they process their life, the education in junior high school, and college, and then what kind of support from get, even though their resources are really limited. And what about, and government is intervene the kind of support, and how they are successful at that, right? And there is kind of you can see a lot of better result in the study, but still you can observe, right? You can see. There's evaluation, and usually done to obtain the formation and review assessment needed for the education planning. Okay, education planning is not just 1 month, 1 year, so it's a long term, right? So maybe studies here and there, longitudinal studies and some studies there, and you put together and then analyze and kind of see how it's going to be. And so it's really see the kind of outcomes and trend and what problem factors. So maybe usually maybe you can see study longitudinal studies out there, and then you can see maybe 2 year junior high school in the beginning, and then maybe high school year, and then like this they study, and then and if you study someone ex post factor evaluation, and then we a little bit different word, and then but still there's if you take the social science and then psychology or anthropology, and then like a longitudinal study, and then whereas the ethnographies, and then you go to some place and then watch people's life, how they think, how they talk, and how they behave, right? Natural environment, but that one is now a little bit different, right? And then this one is similar, and they was a study about event and data. It's not in natural setting anthropography, right? It's not, but it's a similar. So when you evaluate what is the targeting, why you need to evaluate, right? And usually evaluate is kind of learning, how they learn, and kind of measurement and assessment, and what inquiries regarding student learning gain, also learning rate and performance. That is the kind of evaluation, though, learning evaluation. What about instruction evaluations? Instruction evaluation, measurement and assessment and appraisal of the instructional quality is related to usually teachers, right? And confidence, success in related to the instructional standard and goals and norms that relate to instructions, how they teach, right? And what about course evaluations? Course evaluations are course design and content, maybe design, what classes you're gonna take, and to finish the whole things, and what's the level of education, what's the level of the educations, and content and instructional support and testing and remediation system. So there is related to course, that's course evaluations. And what about program evaluations? There's a specific program at school, maybe undeserved student, maybe after school programs, and any kind of programs out there. And so evaluation program curriculars and course combination and evaluation of program design, efficiency and effectiveness, and including assessment of administration and institutional fit and social impact, and then cost benefits like this. And then think about when you run a program at school, especially for like a GATE program, depends on, right? They already gifted, and then they made a class, and then support by special programs. But my school district, they kind of have a program, but not that much difference from the other. They give the title, or you are in GATE program, but not that much difference. There is no accelerated program, and in my kids district, and then there is no also skipping the grade, and maybe they are really excellent, and then they skip the second grade, and there is no, they don't allow it. But another district, and then maybe they are in GATE program, for gifted and special program, and they provide extracurricular, but not that much for our district. So another one is about institution and wider educational system and the evaluation of a multiple program, multi-site educational system and institutional or sector evaluation national. There is a kind of an evaluation. So as an administrator, maybe this is not for the school administrator, but at least maybe learning and instruction and course and programs and that is a kind of a reading under the administrator's authorities. So there's a targeting area for the evaluation. So at least we need to get some idea about what is the evaluation. So when you talk about the evaluation, right? And teachers talking of we can evaluate what is the administrator, we can evaluate the teachers, like one of the things about instructions, right? And evaluate also teacher can evaluate themselves by themselves. And then what about administrator? There's a self-evaluation, there's district evaluation. Maybe teacher can evaluate. So there is a target area of the evaluation, so keep it in mind, and then administrator at least knows what area he can evaluate, the target area of the evaluations. What about the process of evaluations? What is the process? How can you start off? Just sending out the questionnaires? No. Usually there's a problem settings there, and then determine what's going on, it's good or not, and then problem settings kind of determine the situation to be evaluated. Maybe people or the object involved in the situation of interest and purpose, right? That's a problem setting. So think about what is a problem, and then there's the people is there, and then how can you set in the whole things? And then maybe and another thing is and then what is a problem? So think about it, and if you evaluating what is learning, so there is a problem setting, maybe second grade. I don't know. We will not evaluate the second grade learning, right? And then we have 3 classes, and then we can evaluate all the performance like this. And then there's a settings there, okay? What's the second grade, and then what kind of we are testing there. There's all the settings there, and then probably a specific problem. What you gonna test? Maybe scores, standard test, and then and maybe compare with other schools. So when you evaluate the problem and really specify the problem detail. and determine the relevant element of the examination and evaluation problem, right? So there is a specific appropriate evaluation mode is there, method is there, you can use it. So selecting the participant, who can be a part of participant, and then there's sample groups, and sample group you mean the participant is there, and then you can choose the people who can be a part of studies, and identify likely data source. What kind of data source can collect and see, and informant and so on. So how can you just think about it when you do the research paper, and then first of all you set the hypothesis. Your hypothesis there, and then setting the whole things, and then what's the next? How can you do methodologies there? And then what's your hypothesis there? Who's gonna be in the what kind of how can you test? Right, methodologies there. Like specifically, you gotta do it, and then there is a problem specification, and then like I research about second generation millennial Korean American Christians. So like really try to specify them. What's a second generation? Mean that I study about second generation, and then I define the definition. Like they born in America, but parents are immigrant from Korea. Even though they 6 months and 1 month and they moved to America with the parents, I don't consider them second generation because they were born here, right? And then my another specification is why is that, and there is millennials, and we have age studies, millennials, Gen X, and baby boomers, and then Zs, right? There's a kind of an overlap standards there, but I really focus on the millennials, and then I defined there's some overlap between millennials and the Gen Z. There's a millennial, early millennials, and then late Gen X is kind of an overlap, but still there's a lot of definitions out there, but I choose, right? In the scholars' definitions, according. And then what? I study about Korean American, Koreans. Korean American is what? Who born in here, but their ethnic identity is Korean, not the Chinese American, not the Latino Americans. And then I go to more specified what? Christians, not non-Christians. More specified what? What are the attitude about cross-cultural missions? And cross-cultural mission, and then mean that there is another criteria there. I didn't say the title, but who had experience about short-term mission trip. Do you know? You consider kind of how detailed goes and go. That is a kind of specification though. And then also data collection and analysis, and then depends on if you have qualitative research, and then you gotta what's the area. When you study some area, and then Los Angeles area is different from the New York area and other area, right? So you have to specify and narrow down some area. So I said greater Los Angeles area, meaning that around the people who live in Los Angeles area, because the environment is maybe different, and they have a different thought, right? And collect the data around who lives in greater LA area, and then Los Angeles area, and then I go to people and then get this consent form and the interview. And then I record the interview. And I keep the interviews really secret, as a secret and secure storage, and then nobody can see it, but only I know, right? And then I write down the interview, all the details, what they said, and analyze what they said. There's groupings there, people saying thing, and then I make a kind of a categorization and narrow down like this. Right? And then you could analyze finally, second generation has great, they are really positive about cross-cultural missions. Why? And then we can give idea. And there's if you analyze and there's a finding, and based on the findings, there's a recommendation we need. What kind of recommendation? Okay, they have missional mind and a heart, and then how, my recommendation, how church can support and mobilize, how mission agents and mobilize students, right? Like that. There's a basic recommendation, and then based on that one, action control, make a decision, right? That is assessment. So there is a basic kind of process, core process for the educational evaluation. Usually when you study about research and basic formats there, but the content is different and depends on the disciplinaries, and they have required something different, right? So we're gonna know that one. So assessment of evaluation is related to the initial purpose and the process used and the collected result. And so that one is, we gotta know the basic core process of educational evaluations. And there is some models, what kind of education model is out there, and then I'm gonna give you kind of brief introduction of what model is there, and then what is the targeting. And there is a method is there, and then kind of who was a proponent. And I'm not gonna say all the methodology, methods people use it, and I'm gonna just give them basic idea about educational research, and then the evaluation. We said evaluation, right? And here is a goal-attended model. Goal-attended model is like the model is really related to the degree of which predetermined goals are reached is the sole criteria of the evaluation. So they really focus on evaluating the goal. So goal is set, and then they evaluate whether they achieve or not. That is a goal-attained model. So there's a method, terms, method is a goal, resources a goal screens. There's one of the method, and then 5-step models, and 8-step model. There's a steps there, and then they use the evaluate the goals. Like the core process, right? It really focuses on the goals they set. There is another model for the evaluation, is the judgment model. The method is really focused on the evaluated professional judgment. Professional judgment. So The evaluator concentrates on input and output of a system being evaluated and determine the values. Think about, and that is kind of your teachers' evaluations, and administration's evaluation is it. And some here is accreditation models and comparative evaluation and confidence model, payoff evaluation and goal for evaluation, and then there's a lot of different methods, but usually what evaluators professionalism. So what does it think about it? Motivation rates is the right person for these organizations and like this, right? Here is, and then this is the facilitation model. This one is kind of evaluation is used as a collecting data to serve the decision makers. And they haven't decided yet, but still they wanna make a decision and then use this one. And the model really centered on obtaining the relevant information. So basic CIPP model, evaluators as teachers, and discrepancy model, and here is the couple diagram, and that is kind of basic CPP model, and they really see the context evaluation and the what, and product evaluation and process evaluation and input evaluation. So CIPP is always, and what is the context? You gotta know the whole context to evaluate. There is goals, and then like relate the goals and need and resources, problem, all kinds of things. That is the context evaluation. And what about input evaluation, like plans, stakeholders, and strategies, and budget, and coverage, and researches? That is input evaluations. What about the process evaluation? What kind of action they did, or how they did, right? And developing, implement, and monitoring feedback. That is a process evaluation. What about product evaluation? It's the outcome. That's why that's the CPP models. I got it, and that's one of the ways that decision facilitation models. What about naturalistic model? And then there's each kind of a method is focused a little different, right? And if you see the one, that one is a goal attention model is really focused on goal, and then judgmental model is really evaluating input and output. So professionalism, right? How teachers like the professional judgment, right? Evaluate, consider input output of the system, right? So who can do it? And what about the naturalistic model is the main instruction for the data collect is a human being. This is naturalistic. Maybe and constraint impose the evaluation situation and the evaluation activity held to minimum. And usually human object is a lot of limitation. You gotta really be careful. And then there's always people you start to go research and legally, and there's a process, really screen how protect the participant, right? That's why we couldn't get some consent form. So naturalistic is really what's a human instrument and responsive evaluation and connoisseur models and ethnographic model, and then you gotta observe and kind of communicate, and then learn about people and like this. That's usually human instrument. Self-evaluation model is like main source of data collect, analyze from subject being evaluated. Okay, self-evaluating, maybe you can write down, you could answer to the question and then by yourself, right? Not the outside. Now, so there is a LEA schemes and curriculum reviews and school initiated and teacher initiated evaluation and grade, and there's a lot of evaluation methods out there, and then depends on what evaluate, what you evaluate, and then maybe you could use a different evaluation method, right? Let's go to the teacher's evaluation. So first part basically what is evaluation, and then what was focused on, and then we see the specific area of the evaluation, and then we see the specific evaluation method, right? And teachers evaluation, why do we have to evaluate teachers? Why? Yeah, there are maybe there are a lot of reasons about here is some reason. So we wanted to improve. Right, as a teacher, maybe they improve the teaching skills, and they improve and other things. And look at this, the personal improvement, and they were because of the school teachers, and then maybe they improve in teachings and response to children's, and then what? School gonna be improved, right? Right? And also individual accountability and organizational accountabilities. That's why we gotta know that their responsibility, and how can we protect the teachers, how can we motivate teachers to work better and teach better, like this, right? And that is a purpose. What kind of method we can use for the teachers evaluation? And we can go interview, and we can see we have some specific questions there, and then open-ended, but still teacher can speak more, right? A little bit different, but can more relate to the questions. And then here is and interviews, and sometimes and competence test. There is the national teacher examination, and maybe you can use it and how the teacher is doing, and then you can see what they need. And then maybe teacher skills and motivation test. There is a national board for professional teaching standard. There is a toolist here, and indirect measures, and maybe from others, and you can get some how staff talking about, how students talking about it in indirect method measures, maybe classroom observation, and you go to the classroom and then observe and communication, how they teach, how teachers are teaching, and how communicate with the students, and what kind of materials and teaching method, and you can observe and kind of student peer reviews. I don't know. One that is really awkward when I started college here, and then while I was in college, and there's no evaluations. We cannot evaluate teachers. Teacher has authority. We respect them, all right? But when I came to here, and then every class, wow, we have to evaluate the teachers. then relate to how communicate with and what teach and how you things, blah blah blah. Why? I don't like it, but sometimes I'm not used to do that one. Why? So I'm mostly kind of give them good evaluation. If I evaluate kind of a low grade A, but I feel like guilty because of my culture. But when I see others, and then it's when I said around 5 point scales, I usually have 4 and 5, but some people give a 2 and 3. And when I see, that's their opinion, right? There's a student review and evaluation, and sometimes faculty self-evaluation means self-evaluation, right? One of the models that we already see. And there's a lot of there's a quantitative and qualitative evaluation. Quantitative is you got to interview. Qualitative is like a scale you got to answer, and then there's a numbers there, and then you can put in the data, and then you can run the analyze the numbers, right? And then you can see the result. There is very common purpose of teacher evaluations. Was the facilitating improvement and promote decision and the communicate performance appraisal to practice and instructor. There's a very common. So how can we who is a better teacher? How can we compensate? How can we reward it based on the how can we encourage them to communicate better and teach better, right? I already little different, but usually that is a common purpose of the teachers' evaluations. Here is some evaluation models, and then that one is kind of plain model and quantitative models, and then it's based on the kind of this is not the general evaluation that we already did study. So this one is kind of related to teachers, right? Teachers evaluations, and there's a planning model and quantitative model. So planning model is kind of more rich, and then he kind of said that it's really Kuchme, which is a system evaluation model and formative in nature and address personnel and organizational improvement, include kind of 4 phases, determination of the purpose and effectiveness of the system, and development of the monitoring procedure and collecting data and decision making action. There is planning models, right? 4 phases is there. There's one of evaluation, and Coleman, he said specify the number of teachers' behavior. He focused on the teachers' behavior related to what? It's like system and schools and how they procedure, right? And then that one is literally was a teacher's behavior, and then worms and indirectness and cognitive organization, and in these days how teachers shows this model is really reflect the human fact, right? This one is mostly kind of systems, and then so just think about, and then there is there is the address response and formative and summative data, and then we already know the formative and summative data, and then we could use it, right? And so the teacher's behavior maybe have only relative and situational merit. It's not a means that depends on the situation. Teacher may be behave a little different. So it means that maybe it's not that important about the study evaluation, but still give some idea, right? See, give us some ideas. Here is a quantitative models. Usually we try to make some questionnaires, and then we try to see the validity and then reliability because of questions, and then we use that one, right? And quantitative model is a Klein and Aikens model, and they use an objective-based approach that objective-based approach is exclude all subjective judgment of the teachers. Maybe like the objective mean that what here it is. Subjective means that maybe you can say that who are favored by the teachers. It's very subjective, right? And then like objective mean that how many minutes she is teaching the classroom, and like how many given question to the student like this, right? And there is already set the questionnaire, and then that is the Klein and Aikens model, and there's a regression analysis to measure the performance of the one of the teachers against those all students being appraised, and to weigh only this variable under the teacher's control, and to adjust the variable considers the containment influence such as differing pre-test score levels. And then this one is kind of regression analysis, and then one of the statistic methods to measure, and then one thing is you gotta what's the really benefit of this model is that is really focus on the subjective based approach, not objective based approach, right? They don't talk about the subjective because we already talk about the teacher behavior. Depends on the situations, right? And Dyer's model is quantitative in nature, and then he used kind of input variable to student and output variable student and educational process variable and surrounding kind of conditions. And there's kind of kind of that they analyze and test, and then evaluate. And this is possible adjust the student outcome measure, and then those variables beyond the teacher's control, right? Beyond the teacher's control, and then focus on teacher's behavior that easy to change, right? And really easy to change. So there is quantitatively the Dyer model is already quantitative in quantitative research, but still using the 4 variables, right? 4 groups, and then they tested it. four groups of variables. You know, variable is that one is that really wanna evaluate. Like variable is a student is there, and depends on the student what happened, and then maybe students kind of reflect some, and then variable, and there's a dependent variable and independent variable is there. Dependent variable is like you are measuring, right? And like you are measuring the student, that's the independent variable. And dependent variable is kind of what they said and numbers. They marked and 5 and 6, and that's the dependent variable. So there's a variables, you have the input variable of a student and output variable of a student, and then there's a variable, right? And maybe if you take some basic research class, and then I think so you already know the concept of variables. So another model is evaluation is manage mutual benefit evaluation model and reference management by objective evaluation model. That is another model to evaluate the teachers, and then characterize the centralized teaching standard and criteria, and by goal setting and teacher involvement in the evaluation process. So that is not a little bit different from goal settings and teacher involvement in the evaluation process, right? And so this evaluation is mentioned the teacher improvement by the promoting professional growth and by integrating individual performance and performance objective to school policies. So that one is a little bit gives some really bit different. So that one is really struggled with competence and then outcome-based evaluation philosophy. So we can see we have basic philosophy and then how they impact on that one, right? And so result-oriented why they accommodate the number of perspectives of results. So they're willing to accommodate a lot of different way of the understand outcomes. So that one is kind of mutual benefit evaluation and reference management by the object evaluation models, and then basically I want to know. I don't know the detail, but I know that the basic this like this, and then we need to know the basic idea about how we evaluate the teachers, right? That's the models. What about the administrator? There is an administrator who leading the schools, and then why do we have to evaluate the administrator? Why? Maybe sometime we need to know that we are going the right way that we set. Maybe know the directions, and maybe here is some reasons, and then evaluating administrator because to establish and attain the institutional goal, right? Always we don't know. Sometimes we are on the way to achieve the goal. Without the evaluation and evaluating process, it's hard to know where we are. That's why establishing and attaining the institutional goals, so helping individual administrators improve their performance to achieve the goal. And another reason is that to make a decision on the retention and salary and promotion, and then think about there's a kind of one of a reward, there's a reward, right, to motivate and to keep you going and to achieve the goals. And then if they doing poor, maybe you're gonna know we can compensate more, we can cut more. Reward what good. We can give the positive reward or negative reward, right? There it is. Increase of the effectiveness or efficiency of the administration as a team. And sometimes administrators as a leader, right? In the organization, and then how can they work as a team and then work efficiently and effectively. We consider keep inventory of personal resources for assignment or retaining. That is if there's evaluation and always information is always there, and they keep the humans keep all information. How they do it. And can inform the governing body of the degree of the congruence between institutional policy and institutional actions. So how he's doing? Is following the policy or not, right? And sharing the governance with and another one is about inform the internal external audience to administrative effectiveness of work. Okay, we evaluate like this, and parents know this one, and community knows this one, and teacher knows this one, like this, right? And conduct the research on factors related to the administrative effectiveness. So still research about how they do, and then why is it effective, why not effective. It's really contributed to the research. There's a lot of different reason is there, and then here is basic principles. Basic principles to when you evaluate the administrator. And there is a credibility. Is there credibility? And when you evaluate and any kind of research is there. If you use already set the credibility and then validity, and then we don't have to worry about it, and there's a reliability, right? And if we already set and they use the questionnaire, and then we don't question about it, but still if we don't, and then we got a question about it, right? And that's why they really need to follow the procedure of the research, evaluation, and then see what's the content. Really important. So for the credibility, the confidence, the procedure of appropriate, whole process is appropriate, and develop the input from the all parties affected. It's not just think about when your evaluation is not just related to teachers. So administrators, he's involved by reading the whole school, right? Affect the personnel, staff, and then and effect on teachers, effect on students, right? So clearly understanding the evaluation has potential for produce positive results, right? And so we need to know that, and what we are expecting. And so we have the credibility, and another thing is validity based on the comprehensive and accuracy, how they process. And So evaluation should measure the meaningful of change in person that resulted from the administration effort. So sampling should represent a wide variety of resources as possible. That's the validate to mean that okay, they are measuring the right things. They choose the right sample size. How many people they do like this. And eventually they wanna get repeat same, they wanna get the same outcome if they do. Yeah, and there is a fairness. We have to be fair, right? While we evaluate, but it's fair to or as a participant, administrator, participant, or who is not participant. Maybe depends on schools and depends on depends on the district, and then maybe we are just not evaluating one person, but think about it. If we district have a lot of different junior high school, elementaries, and then if we evaluate individually, it's different, right? We evaluate just one schools, and we don't have to worry about much, but still it's fair. The participants are protected and confidentiality is given, and then no any because of these things, and no other disadvantages. And based on the clear informations. And what kind of model they could use for the evaluating administrator? And there is a rating scale like questionnaires and scaling and forms is there, and then you can chat, and maybe there is the scaling, but rating scaling maybe 1 to 10, but still like a closing is and 1 to 10 maybe they can open form is there. Maybe you can write down more detailed stuff, and there is always there. And then when you check, they scaled and rated, and then you have any other then open. So last Sunday, and my church kind of administrator sent out the evaluation, worship and other surveys and other. We have 6 goals, and then they evaluate every year, and then there is always rating is there, and then people is like a 5 rating scale, but I suggest bigger than the 5, and then 10 is too big, too detailed, and then we get the 7 rating scales. If it's too small, it's hard to see the result outcome, and then 7 and 10 look the more detail, what levels people are thinking about, and rating scale gives some kind of more think, and then measure details, right? And allow user to classify information from various sources and rapidly and effectively, right? That is a rating scale. It's easy to do that. Another way that we can evaluate the administrator, and there was a growth contract, and when people start to the job and then hired and then interviewed, and then there's give them some idea about how you're gonna do like this, and then there's whole area is there, and then and maybe how you evaluate yourself, and then what is the improvement, and what is the plan next year, and what is the goals in the long term, and then you can write down, and that is maybe evaluate there's a self. It's not given by outside, and then the self-evaluation. So growth contracts allows the evaluatee to think through and write down goals and objectives for the future. And usually in the beginning, when they contract sign, and then maybe they could give them like a form, and you can write down, and then maybe also the board members can see and then decide. So there's 4 areas: self-evaluation, statement, past performance, and perception of strength and weakness of ourselves. They can write down. And then what is the area of improvement? Selective area of difficulty discussed in your self-evaluations. Weakness and how can you improve yourself? And then what about plan for the improvement in phrases clearly defined objectives, and allow a person to place an improvement plan into a larger context at the long run, like this. And then you can evaluate with this one, contract, growth contract, called growth contract. What about ad hoc committees? And then there are kind of people are selected to making the screening committee, and then they are representative of the constituency served by the administrator, and they are kind of evaluating, right? So the committee should have confidentiality and dignity to evaluate objectively, and understanding the criticism as well as recognition is inherent evaluation, open disclosure of evaluative process and criteria. So understanding of the complexity of the valid evaluation, and understanding of the specific of the time and place, expectation at the time of appointment, and issues at the time of administrator was hired, and as they impinge on the administrator's work and evaluation. That is based on their people who really understand all that, and then make a committee and then evaluate, right? Evaluate it. And what about management by object? We already talked about a little bit, and here is, and then there is a system planning or management process that includes evaluation as a component, right? We already talked about previous, and teachers. That one is another models, and this will start with the process step by goal clarification and establishment of measurable objectivities and unit and individual self-analysis and action planning and implementation. And there's a lot of different variables out there, right here. And whole things are put together, and so evaluation and feedback and review plan and implementation completed the system. So very interesting. It's not just one area like this, and then that's pretty. I think it's if we think the school is organization, and then we gotta reflect a lot of different area, right? And then as a system put together, and then see how we can do. Here is there is some evaluation kind of what's a method and who are really what's their basic philosophies and then how they see the whole things and then that's from the book though and there's was people who really have this one and then people is like follow this line there is and then I think it's a cut and then here is like a personal philosophical base and principle base and focus on methodology and then variable and control and comparison. There is different styles of methodology. I think it's a cut, really, a little bit cut, and here is more information is there, and there is I think it's here is a more kind of continuation is a base is there, and then who is model is there, and then there is major program evaluation models, and then and in education is I just put some reference, and then you can see, and you consider the books, and I cannot draw, and then I took a picture from the book and then show with you guys, and there's a lot of people, scholars, and they suggest some methodologies there. So I'm not going to go over by detail, but still, if you are interested, and then you can go back to see what kind of model is there, what kind of model they are suggesting, how they coming from, right? But I already gives you basic idea about how we evaluate the administrators, and we already talked about the evaluation and teachers evaluation and then administrator evaluation, and then what's the standard requirement for the education evaluations, and there is a couple of standards there, and then here is a utility standard for the evaluation, and then feasibility and appropriate standard. Why is the utility standard? Utility standard is a guide the evaluation process, right? Evaluation process, so that it will be timely and informative and influential and addressing the needs of an audience to be served by the process. That is a utility standard. Really focus on the process, right? What about feasibility standard? Feasibility standard ensure that ensure that the program evaluation are realistic and prudent, diplomatic, and cost-effective. That's the feasibility standard. It's feasible, right? And we gotta consider that one. And another one is the appropriate standard to ensure that our evaluation will be conducted legally, ethically, and with regard to the welfare of those who involved in the evaluation. That one is a really big issue, though. We gotta protect that, right? That is the appropriate standard. Maybe if you go to other disciplinary and they use a different term, right? But in there is an education evaluation. This is for your education evaluation. So like, there is another standard, this one, accuracy standard. Accuracy standard addresses whether evaluation produces sound information that determines the merit of a program being evaluated. It's like validity, still we call it accurate standard. So accuracy standard we can get from context analysis, maybe detailed monitoring and description, and maybe defensible information resources from other outside and inside, and then what about information gathering process, and just think about sampling, who can be in the part of the in the evaluation, and then analysis of quantitative and qualitative information, how you analyze the process, and impartial reporting, and then you don't have any other your personal propositions, and affect the risk, evaluation, and the meta-evaluation and formative, summative. Meta-evaluation was a meta-evaluation. Meta-evaluation is like, there's a lot of studies already out there, and then but you study like relate to the topic and all get together. Not all, some get together and get another insight from the other studies. That's a meta evaluation. Okay, this is last my slide, and then you're gonna know that what is when you conduct the educational evaluations, and there is a lot of similar between other research, other evaluation and research, but still we gotta respect the educational evaluation. So there's a terminology is there, there's a as a standard is there. So think about becoming an administrator, and then how can effectively operate the schools, and then we need evaluations. We don't talk about much student evaluations, because usually student evaluations by teachers. But so usually administrator works, working with teachers, right, and staffers. So we are talking about that's why we really talk about the teachers evaluation, and then administrative evaluation itself and outside. So evaluation is really important for the schools, and then for their achieve the goal and make the work effectively and efficiently, right? So maybe it's really depends on the culture. It's really hard to evaluate others, but still, I hope that you guys can evaluate. So maybe, but not subjectively and but objectively, right? Evaluate kind of ability to evaluate what the teachers and then self, right? And maybe you could use a lot of different already it's kind of questionnaire that already examine the reliabilities, and then also the validity. And sometimes you cannot do it, and then maybe you can use or hire the outside evaluators, right? But still, there's a lot of theories out there, and then ways out there, and then maybe on the way to become a evaluator, as administrator, you already learn and what's effective and what kind of how can you study it and how can you get idea from others and maybe already learn on the way to become an administrator. So I think you don't have to worry about, but still, we need a basic idea. We need a basic idea, right? All right. So, if you have any questions, just let me know. I try to answer your question, but just think about my intention of the class and try to introduce what area we need to think and prepare for. But I don't provide specific issues, right? And relate to the how can we evaluate and then like third grade teachers and then how can not like it's a specific one, but still I give you kind of general idea about evaluations. All right, you guys have a really great week and stay healthy and God bless you. Yeah. See you. Yeah, we have 2 more class and see you next week. Bye.